Welcome to another video tutorial. In this video, I'm going to explain how to set player name and also how to show player name as a result in dialog and display messages. So this is a question that's asked quite a bit on the Discord, is how can you set a custom player name? So I'm going to show you a system that we can develop to do that. And this is going to take inspiration from the sort of Elder Scrolls, Morrowind, Skyrim type thing, where you talk to a character at the beginning of the game, they ask you for your name, and then it gives you the ability to name your character, and then from then on, your name is used in dialogue or messages throughout the game. So here's how we're going to do this. So the first thing we need to do is we need to make the interface by which we're going to set our name. Now, just to point this out as well, if you open up a model, let's say base Justin, which is going to be the player character in the voxel editor, and if we go to model properties, there'll be a name field, here we go, where it currently says Justin. So this is what name your character starts out with by default. So if ever a character refers to you by name, this would be the name that it would start with. I'm actually going to leave that blank because for the purposes of this idea, I want the player to start with no name so that we can check for that. And then if that's the case, then we have to name our character. So I'm actually not going to have a name, and I'm going to save the voxel editor, save the project. So I've also got a goblin in this little alcove here, who's going to be the one that asks us for our name, and we then provide a name. So the first thing we need to do is we need to go to the UI editor, and we need to go to widgets, and we need to make a custom widget by which we're going to set the name of our character, of our player character. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new widget, and we'll call this name underscore player, because that's in essence what it's going to be. And I'm not going to have a title bar, so show title bar I'm going to turn off. I'm going to make it a little narrower, a little wider, something like that. And we're going to add a couple of components. We're going to add a label, which this can say name, colon. And then we're going to need a text field. And this is going to be where we're going to type. Oops. This is going to be where we're going to type our name. Now, by default, what we're going to do is we're going to type into here $, open and close brackets, and then within the brackets you're going to write player dot name. So that means that this text field, this is what's called placeholder expressions. So this text here is a special kind of text. When we play the game, this won't say this. It will actually show what the player's name is currently set to. So hopefully it will work with no name, but it should be blank, but we'll see what happens. But at the very least, if you had a name, it would show here. So if we'd left it as Justin, for example, then it would start by saying Justin here. And then the last thing we need is a button by which we can then accept the name change. So I'm just going to change the text to that, to OK. And that's our little widget. So let's save that. And now we need a script for our button. What's this going to do? So we're going to go to the script editor, and we're going to make a new script called name button. And delete the display message. What this is going to do is it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to assign a value, and it's going to hide the widget, and we need to fill in name underscore player, so that it's the correct name for the widget. It's going to do one other thing, but we're not ready to do that yet, so I'm going to leave this as is. But what we need to do is we need to change what the assign value is going to do. So what it's going to do is it's going to set player dot name to equal, and I'm going to actually do this down in the box site, because the assign value node doesn't like this kind of I haven't got it to be able to do this within the node, but it does work if you do it in the actual text. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this. Let's maximize that. We're going to change this to player dot name. So that's the name property of the player, equals, and then we want the name of our widget. So widget square brackets, and then within the square brackets, a couple of speech marks. Within the speech marks, you want the name of the widget, so name underscore player. Then you want dot, oops, wrong place. You want dot element, square brackets, and within the square brackets, 2 speech marks. And then you want the ID of the element, which I believe is 0002. I will check that, and I will also explain what that means. And then I'm going to put dot text and then a semicolon. So let's just apply that and save, check that's valid, and then I'll just quickly explain what this is doing. So this is going to set the property on the player called name. It's going to set that text to the widget that we've created. So let's go to the UI editor, this widget here, name player, and then this has an element ID of 0002. So that 002 basically means it's this particular text box here. And we're basically saying that whatever text is in this box when we click the button, that text should be stored in player.name. So it's basically going to change player.name to whatever is typed into this box when we click this button. And then the other thing it's going to do once it's done that is hide the widget. So get rid of it when it's done. We should also just double check that the widget is set to show in the center. That's what I wanted to do. In fact, I might even set it to be bottom center for now. So let's save everything. So save that and save the scripts if they're not. That seems fine. So there's our name button script. However, it's not finished quite yet. But what we also need to do, forgot to do, is go to the UI editor, click the button, and make sure that when you click it, the button action is run script, and the script is named button. So it does that script when we click the OK button. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is sort out the dialog. So let's go to our Goblin in the voxel editor and just confirm his name is Goblin. So that's the name that's going to pop up in his dialog. Let's also create, well, I've already done this actually. I've created a portrait for him as well, a PNG for his portrait, so that in dialog, that's how he's going to look. So the next thing we need to do is dialog. So I'm going to create a new dialog file, and I'm going to call this Goblin greeting, something like that. And this is going to start with a condition. And the condition is going to be if player.name is equal to blank. So in other words, if nothing is set. If that's the case, then what we want is the NPC to say, greetings, stranger. Tell me your name. Something like that. And this needs to be set to entity ID, and we'll put goblin in here. Let me just check that's the ID I gave the goblin. So click the goblin, go to entity properties. Now it's gob_lin, just to make it different. So gob_lin. So this is what he's going to say if player name is blank. He should say, "Greetings, stranger, tell me your name." And then what it should do is a script node, which we'll put underneath there. Hide that. And this should show the widget. So let's type show widget. And the text within the speech marks is going to be the name of our widget, so name_player. So that should bring up that user interface after he says, "Tell me your name." Otherwise, if we have a name, then we want him to greet us by our name. So let's go back up to the NPC node, drag that into the else branch. And we're going to change this. And again, we're going to use that placeholder expression that we used in the widget. We're going to say, "Hello," or let's say, "Nice to meet you," and then $, open and close brackets, and within the brackets, type player dot name. And then we'll put an exclamation mark at the very end. And again, this needs to be set to entity ID gob_lin. Okay, there's a reason why we're setting it to entity ID rather than the initiating NPC. And that's because what I want to do now, let's just save this, is as soon as we've set the name, I want the dialogue to start again. So what we're going to want to do is go back to our script where we're setting the name, so the name button, and the last thing we want to do is start dialogue at the very end. And the dialogue we want to start is goblin greeting. So it will restart the dialogue once we've set the name. Now, because you can't set as a property in the start dialogue who's the NPC, it just generally starts the dialogue. Then you actually have to tell the dialogue who's talking very specifically. Otherwise, it will, the next time you start this dialogue via the script, it won't have the correct portrait or name or anything like that for the entity. So that's why we're setting it specifically in the dialogue rather than leaving it to just be self on the initiating NPC. Because when you trigger it from a script, it won't have an initiating NPC. It will be a script that's triggering it. So we tell the dialogue itself to have an entity ID forced into it. Because the goblin is the only person that's going to say this, so it's fine. So now we can save that script, and this should be the only other thing we need to do is set the dialogue on the goblin. Just check that. So on interacts, we want to start dialogue, goblin greeting, and save that. And let's give it a test. Let's see what happens. So here we are. Let's go talk to the goblin. "Greetings, stranger. Tell me your name." And that's because the if player.name is blank was true. So that's why he says, "Tell me your name." As soon as we click this, we get the name field. If I was to leave this as blank, then he's going to loop back round to say, "Tell me your name." You could even have another if check or something where it comes back and says, something like, "You need to tell me your name," or something like that. So it doesn't exactly say the same thing. But anyway, it's going to loop around now until we actually do this properly. But now as soon as we give our player character a name, so let's say Slayer, then now it should start the dialogue again, and he should say, "Nice to meet you, Slayer." And obviously every time I speak to him now, because I have a name, it's going to keep greeting me as Slayer. So hopefully that makes sense. Just to quickly explain that you can use placeholder expressions, you know, wherever you want. So for example, you could have a widget that, you know, has a player model. For example, you could make this a bit bigger, have a player model. Oh, you have to drag it on the, have a player model preview thing with equipment slots if you're making like your own equipment menus and things. And then you could have your name at the top, and you would just make sure that the text in that field is $brackets player.name. Hopefully that's helped you get custom names working in your game. That will wrap up this video. Thanks for watching.